In total, there have been more than 500 plus people who have been taken hostage in foreign countries. 281 people were taken hostage in Iraq since 2004. When journalists go to dangerous countries in order to cover stories or do research, there is a chance that they may be taken hostage. Here are some journalists that have. Number 5. Amanda Lindhout. Amanda is a Canadian journalist. She began her career by reporting from various conflict zones around the world. She has done reports in such countries as Afghanistan and Iraq. During this time, she was working on a report for Iran's news and documentary network, Press TV. This led to some Canadian reporters to criticize her due to Press TV's reputation for producing propaganda. After she had finished her reports in Iraq, she went to do some research in Somalia in August of 2008. It's unknown what she was researching or who she was working for during the time, as it's been reported that she was not affiliated with any news organizations other than Alberta's Red Deer Advocate. It's been speculated that she was in Somalia for an assignment linked to an international news and current affairs television channel based in Paris. It was called France 24. However, a spokesman for the organization claimed that she was not sent to Somalia by them, but later on confirmed that she was on a freelance assignment, so it's all a bit confusing. On August 23, 2008, just 2 days after arriving in Mogadishu, Somalia, Amanda, Nigel Brennan, who is an Australian photojournalist, their Somalian translator, and 2 drivers were kidnapped. They were on their way to conduct interviews at a refugee camp when they were stopped by gunmen. Their abductors were teenage insurgents from the Hizbul Islam fundamentalist group. The gunmen had originally targeted a different journalist who worked for National Geographic magazine, but as they had increased security, the gunmen ended up kidnapping Amanda and her crew. While in captivity, Amanda was segregated from her crew and was tortured and raped repeatedly. On September 17th, Al Jazeera featured footage of Amanda and Nigel in captivity, surrounded by gunmen. On October 13, 2008, the kidnappers demanded a ransom of $2.5 million by October 28th in order for their release. 4 months later, on February 23, 2009, the Canadian Association of Journalists insisted that the Prime Minister, Stephen Harper, should help secure the release of Amanda. By this time, only Amanda and Nigel were left in captivity, as the translator and the 2 drivers were released in January the month previous. Due to no response, the kidnappers lowered the ransom demand to $1 million. 4 months later, in June of 2009, CTV News received a phone call from a distraught Amanda. She read a statement which said, "My name is Amanda Lindhout and I am a Canadian citizen. I have been held hostage by gunmen in Somalia for nearly 10 months. I'm in a desperate situation. I'm being kept in a dark, windowless room in chains without any clean drinking water and little or no food. I've been very sick for months and without medicine. I love my country and want to live to see it again. Without food or medicine, I will die here." Finally, on November 25, 2009, after 460 days as hostages, Amanda and Nigel were released following a ransom payment from their families. Once released, Amanda was hospitalized in Nairobi for 2 weeks in order to treat malnourishment. Following her release, Amanda has written books about her capture and has pursued a humanitarian career. On June 12, 2015, a man by the name of Ali Ada was arrested in Ottawa. He was described as the main negotiator in the hostage taking of Amanda and Nigel. Number 4. John McCarthy. John Patrick McCarthy is a British journalist, writer and broadcaster. He was also one of the hostages in the Lebanon hostage crisis. The Lebanon hostage crisis was systematic kidnappings of 96 foreign hostages and 21 nationalists in Lebanon between 1982 and 1992. During the time, John was working for United Press International Television News. He was in Lebanon covering a story when he was kidnapped by Islamic Jihad terrorists in April of 1986. The original motive behind a hostage crisis is thought to have been to discourage retaliation by the US, Syria, or any other powers against Islamist militant group Hezbollah. 9 hostages ended up being executed during the crisis. John McCarthy was Britain's longest held hostage and was held hostage for more than 5 years. He was kidnapped in April of 1986 and was released on the 8th of August 1991. Following his release, he wrote a memoir of his years in captivity. He also made documentaries for the BBC and done some radio work. In 1992, he was awarded as Commander of the Most Excellent Order of the British Empire. Number 3. Gregorio Jimenez de la Cruz. Gregorio was a Mexican journalist and photographer. He worked as a photographer for 20 years and became a journalist only 5 years before his murder. He worked as the police and crime reporter for the news agency Noticias. He reported on such topics as local abductions and violence towards migrants. Due to security reasons, he would sometimes use the pseudonym The Panther. On February 5, 2014, he was abducted from his home in Veracruz, Mexico, just moments after he dropped off his children at school. The masked men forced him to get into their car, then drove off. For a few days following his abduction, journalists held protests demanding that he be found safe and sound. They chanted, "They took him alive, so we want him alive." On February 11, 2014, 6 days after his abduction, Gregorio's body was found in a shallow grave in Las Chiapas, Veracruz. Also in the grave were several other bodies. One included local union leader Ernesto Guillén. Before Gregorio disappeared, he wrote an article about Guillén's outspoken criticism of organized crime. Police arrested 6 suspects. Although Gregorio had written about organized crime, kidnappings and murder, a governor of Veracruz claimed that he had been murdered as a result of a personal dispute due to his son's failed romantic relationship. Number 2. Diana Turbay. Diana was a Colombian journalist. She was respected by the Colombian media and founded her own television newscast and weekly magazine company. She was also daughter of Julio Cesar Turbay, who was the 25th president of Colombia. On August 30th, 1990, she was kidnapped by the Medellin cartel. The Medellin cartel was an organized network of drug suppliers and smugglers originating in the city of Medellin, Colombia. They were founded by drug kingpins Pablo Escobar and George Ochoa. Diana was tricked. She believed she was on her way to interview a guerrilla leader by the name of Manuel Martinez, but instead, her car was stopped by gunmen and she was taken hostage. Before she was taken, she had been contacted by phone by an unidentified man. Police later investigated the call and had determined that the man belonged to a criminal group called Los Priscos. It was also found out that Pablo Escobar had hired them. Their aim was to kidnap as many politicians and journalists as possible to prevent Colombian legislators from approving extradition treaties with the United States. Diana was kept on a farm with her cameraman. She was kept for 5 months until she died on January 25, 1991. She was accidentally killed by Colombian police during an unauthorized rescue attempt. The cause of death was a bullet in her back, which partially destroyed her liver and left kidney. Number 1. James Foley. James Foley was an American journalist and video reporter. While working as a freelance war correspondent during the Syrian civil war, he was abducted on November 22, 2012. He was kidnapped by unidentified gunmen in northern province of Idlib, Syria. This wasn't the first time he was abducted, as he was held captive just a year prior to this. He was kidnapped by an organized gang after departing from an internet cafe. During negotiations from November to December 2013, Foley's kidnappers demanded $132 million for his release. Foley's whereabouts were unknown to most until August 19, 2014. ISIS uploaded a video to YouTube titled "A Message to America." It was quickly deleted, but began to start circulating on the web again. The video started off by showing President Obama announcing the first US strikes against ISIS in Iraq. It then cut to Foley kneeling in the desert next to a masked ISIS fighter. Foley then read a long message expressing regret. Once Foley stops, the executioner condemns the US airstrikes and threatens that any aggression by America will result in bloodshed of your people. After this, James Foley was beheaded. Foley's family confirmed his death on August 19th. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe to keep updated with our videos. Goodbye.